happy that you were part of, you supported the AA and you became part of the education panel.
I was honored to be invited. Yeah.
And also the other thing is, I think, if you look at European countries, particularly in Denmark, they sort of talk about universal income. So they're already moving into a newer phase where life has more meaning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But today we were discussing about automation, AI, machine learning. There's a lot of these things that are disrupting life. How do you see the differences between your home country to here?
I think, funny enough, I see a lot of similarities in terms of the interest in innovation is very big in both countries. Increasing focus on sustainability, increasing focus on future. I think probably culturally, there are some differences in the values in the populations in Scandinavia and Southeast Asia, where maybe Southeast Asia is a bit more hierarchical, power distance is clearly greater. And that has an impact on how organizations deal with this question of, so if the old model, the old way we organized our business, the value chain, how customers come to think of our brand, if that's no longer sustainable, how quickly can we find out what would be sustainable, what would actually be meaningful for our employees, valuable for our shareholders, but also valuable for our customers. And that's where you can say that the agility is probably a little bit higher in Scandinavia compared to here. There's less power distance. The prime minister might be wearing jeans, or so there's a bit more like how can I say, anybody can talk to anybody, open offices, and that type of culture. But I would also say that I'm seeing that shift happening here, where many organizations that are under this pressure to innovate are looking also to what are some of the best practices, what can we learn from startups. So many of the clients that come to us want to kind of redefine who are we, what's our culture, how are we going to find out about our employees' desires and needs? How can we get better at focusing on our customers' desires and needs? So I think that shift is happening globally. And even sometimes in Asia, people kind of put, Malaysians often put Malaysia down and look up to the West or look up to China or something. But I actually think there's a lot of awesomeness here. And I actually think Malaysia has so much going for itself in this regard, both in terms of the corporate innovation space, but also the startup space and the kind of connection between these two spaces.
So what effectively you're telling me is that the adult education is becoming more important.
Yes.
Particularly with the large corporates.
Yeah.
And there's all these sectors where the insurance companies, the banks and stuff are basically laying large amounts of people. You go in and you help them retrain their staff, re-energize them, and help them to sort of adopt to the newer life cycle.
Yeah.
How do you achieve that? Because from a financial point of view, banks are going to look at it from efficiency and cost.
Yes.
And humans probably are considered less efficient as compared to a robot.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. So I guess you can say that to become more digital is in a way only a strategy to be more competitive, and to be relevant, to create new value, not just to do the old thing cheaper, but to figure out what's the new thing we should be doing. So a big innovation focus the last 10-15 years has been leaning organizations, automating already. So there's already a lot of things that are done at a fairly low cost, and these costs can be driven down further. But there's this, in a way, automation also creates opportunity to say, what else could we be doing that we create more value, not just the same value at a lower cost, but create new value at low cost. So that's really the promise of digital. But to be more digital, we need to be more human first. So for us, we're obviously a little bit biased being Human Inc., but we really believe that the future is about being more human as a leader, as a citizen, as a boss, as a colleague, as someone serving a customer, as a colleague. How do you, so organizations actually need to become more human. And when you work in the corporate space, you also know that there are many companies that doesn't feel very human to work in, and where there's a lot of pain. Physically, it's too cold in the office. Work hours are inhumane. Fear factor of messing up the project, not delivering on time. I mean, there's a lot of things that are inhibiting innovation. That's not the environment that you would want if you want to innovate and you want to understand your customers and show empathy with your customers. If your people are feeling fear, pain, physically, emotionally, how are they going to serve your customers, right?
Right.
So it's not rocket science that these two things are equated, customer experience and employee experience. However, most companies have been focusing much more on the customer play. So we can only do the customer a bit better if we start with the core. Who are we as an organization? Why do we exist? What's our purpose? How do we believe in treating our people?
Right.
So that's kind of the bigger kind of context. And then there's the other part of the question you ask, which is more like, how do you justify it financially? So a lot of the organizations we work with are looking at how do we build better digital journeys. So we used to have the branch manager sitting out somewhere, and people would be willing to spend their time and park their car in the lunch break and rush into the bank and take a number and sit and panic about when is it my turn and so on. But increasingly customers will not be willing to do that and would want to do everything online. I'm sure you're the same like me.
Yes.
Right? So this begs the question, if we want to digitize that, how can we make it feel better than going to the branch, not worse? Right. And there's been a lot of automation and optimization that has been good at cutting cost, but actually made feeling go down, not up.
Right.
So what else could we do? What other value can we create? But even if we just want to do things cheaper, can we also make them feel better at the same time?
So what would be the one key takeaway from the conference today for you?
I think maybe from the panel I was in, I think a key takeaway was kind of the question around how to build organizations that awesome people want to join.
Right.
How do we build awesome organizations? Because if we want to create the future of work, it should be an awesome future. I mean, the future will come no matter what.
Right.
But how do we build a desirable future, right? That will be truly exciting, and where we don't suffer from these problems of brain drain, where we don't suffer from some of those kind of pressures between those who are making a lot and those who's making a little, those who have a lot of protection, those who have very little protection. If we talk about gig economy and all that, there could be some risks there for sure. So I think there are some questions that are more of ethical nature that is becoming bigger in business in terms of what is our purpose as an organization? What are the values we're guided by? Because if we want to create that value for our customers, for our shareholders, we need to first start with what do we actually believe in? What's the right way to treat other people? And what the skill to do that as an organization has become. So culture curation becomes more important. So I think that's another part that I'm kind of taking away that would be very important.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Well, thank you for having me, and again,
and
a great
pleasure.
job at running this conference.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Thanks, mate.